Welcome to Overnight Market Brief, Pre-Market Edition by AGI Era. Good morning. Today is Friday, February 6, 2026, and it is shortly after 8 a.m. Eastern Time. This is your executive summary of global market developments, analyzing the overnight flows in Asia and Europe, the key macro drivers, and the setup for the North American Open. The prior session and macro context. First, a look back at yesterday's close. Wall Street finished on a defensive footing. The S&P 500 settled at 6,798, declining 1.2%, while the Nasdaq 100 declined 1.4% to close at 24,549. Crucially, the session was driven by a broad risk-off sentiment, but the real story right now is in the macro assets. Right now, the 10-year Treasury Yield is trading at 4.196%. Moving higher by 0.016 percentage points. The U.S. dollar index is fractionally lower at 97.69, while crude oil is lower around 63.01. The slight uptick in yields is not significantly impacting equity futures this morning, as the dollar's fractional weakness provides some offsetting support. Overnight session, Asia and Europe. Moving to the overnight session, global markets have been mixed. In Asia, the picture was mixed. In Tokyo, the Nikkei 225 finished higher by 0.81%, tracking a broader regional uplift despite a fragile yen narrative. Meanwhile, in Greater China, the Seng declined 1.21%, while the Shanghai Composite declined 0.25%. The divergence here was driven by specific regional factors and a general muted sentiment in Asia FX as the dollar heads for weekly gains, contrasting with the Nikkei's resilience. In Europe, major indices are trading with a cautious tone. The price action suggests concerns over economic data, with German industrial output falling more than expected in December and widespread contraction in Eurozone construction activity, providing a defensive lead-in for U.S. traders. U.S. futures in the open. Turning to the U.S. pre-market, equity futures are higher. S&P 500 futures are trading higher by 0.48%, while Nasdaq 100 futures are higher by 0.59%. The relative performance suggests investors are rotating slightly into growth and technology names, with Nasdaq futures outperforming S&P futures. The daily catalyst. Looking ahead to the session, investors are focused on three key catalysts. First, the German industrial output data, which showed a larger than expected decline, will continue to weigh on European sentiment and potentially influence global growth expectations. Second, Swedish inflation data, falling to 2.0% in January, with the core rate below forecast, will inform the ongoing debate around central bank policy in Europe. And finally, the broader currency dynamics, particularly the dollar's weekly strength and the Bank of England's recent dovish stance, will continue to shape cross-asset flows. Given the overnight setup in rates and the dollar, the market's path of least resistance appears to be cautiously higher, pending any surprises from the data releases. That concludes your overnight market brief. Disclaimer: this podcast is not financial advice. Data may be delayed or inaccurate. Always conduct your own due diligence.